I guess on my hair, she look all right. And with that actually sitting there like this frames, and I had to have them, sis. All 5 of them. I just had, we're gonna discontinue it, but I had to pick up their book of shadows, honey. Color grade makes cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Why so serious? What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Torrence here, and in today's video, I'm finally playing with the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I promised I would use in this month. If you all check out my last video, I think that was called Use It or Lose It. I'll leave that link right here above. I talked about 10 different palettes that I really wanted to try out, and today the first one is here, and it is the Nouveau palette, baby. I'm telling you all. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but you all can look at this and tell, like, she gorgeous. She gorgeous. But let's get into this color story. Like, boo, baby, off rip, she did nothing for me because I was paying attention to this shade and this shade here. It wasn't until I started focusing a little bit harder and said, but they gave you a green, Torrence. And I know you don't like blues, but at least they try to be different and put that blue brown in there. You ain't had a blue brown from ABH. We got to test that out and see if she is good as Max Pigment. But later on in this video, I will show you all comparison swatches, because although we know ABH comes out with some fabulous products, in my collection I have a palette from ABH that I consider to be very similar. The finishes aren't identical and the shades aren't identical. But when you look at how many shades are comparable in this 12-pan palette, you're gonna be like, let me see if I still got that palette and need to pull that out of my collection. But before we get into this tutorial, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you've already hit the subscribe button, I want to say thank you. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. But before we jump into things, you know I gotta bring you those swatches. This here is a close-up view of the ABH Nouveau palette. I'm just now finding out that Nouveau is French for the word new, and although this isn't the newest palette from ABH, it is the one that excites me the most out of all of their new palettes, and so I had to go ahead and get it. You see this green packaging is textured, and she is absolutely stunning. She also has a gold trim around the edges, and I think that is extra beautiful, but it's what's on the inside that's going to capture our hearts. Once inside, we have 12 beautiful shades. It appears to be 5 mattes and 7 metallics. This palette does contain a mirror and no brush. The thing is, it is rather hard to bend this back. So if you're someone who likes to hold your palettes in one hand, this may be rather difficult. So more than likely, this is the type of palette you're going to want to use sitting down flat on the surface. Alright, y'all, here are the swatches. If I could tell you one thing, it's that ABH must have went back to their traditional formula, because when I tell you, these are extremely soft, like extremely soft. You only need the slightest touch and you will get full opacity. This is one swatch over no primer, dry fingers, and as you can see, there is not a single shade that did not show out. So baby, with nothing left to talk about, let's go ahead and get into this tutorial. Baby, it's time to get into things. You already know. If the eyes are prepped, we're doing eyeshadow. Today, we are playing with the Nouveau palette. And I'm sitting back looking at her like, Torrence, you already know. Oranges and blues don't do it for you. But for the people, we got to get them something they want. So, for today, we're going to step out of our comfort zone. And we're going to go ahead and start looking at some of them warm orange tones. Because I'm like, I can either go green, I can go blue if I want to play with colors. And since we got on the blue shirt, we're going to do that. As with all tutorials, all tools and product shoes will be in the description bar below. But baby, we've been talking long enough and it's like, let's get into it. First off, we're going to take us a large fluffy blending brush. I ain't even pulled them out yet, honey. I got clean brushes right here, but ain't none of them laid out. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to use first. You already know. Let me pull that to the side. We're going to start off with our rougher number 27 brush. And just to see what she like, we're going to go into this shade here, Fleur, and we're going to take this throughout our entire crease as a transition shade. Alright, you guys, and you already know, AB8 shadows are extremely soft, so we're going to tap that off. We're going to go in now, and I'm telling you, go in slow. Be careful. AB8 shadows are extremely softly pressed. Like extremely softly pressed. And they are pigmented. And with this shade here, I can see her in person. I'm hoping you all can see her on camera. But this is already letting me know. I'm going to have to go in and build this up. I want to see just on this first layer. Can y'all see that? Okay, yeah, she's showing up on camera, but you can really tell that is a transition shade. For my complexion, I would have hoped for something a little darker, but I almost tapped that up, but I'm like, screw it, because of that pigmentation, we're gonna keep her. Just to see how she builds when we don't tap off our brush. And on this second layer, it's not giving me much more color. It's still about the same color, but she's blending with no problem, like no issues at all. It's just I really wish this color was a little bit darker. So you know what? I think on me, yeah, we're gonna have to deepen that up, since that ain't gonna be enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this on the other side, because baby, I know I like a light transition, but that ain't gonna be enough. So I'll be right back. Now I must admit, after giving it a few moments to go ahead and sit, the color looks a lot better on my lids than it did before. This is truly going to be a transition shade for me. I believe if you're someone who, like myself, like a really deep dark shade, or if you're someone with a deeper complexion, you may want to go in with something darker. But now that I've given it time, she looks cute, but that ain't dark enough for me. So to deepen things up, we're going to go back into our crease with this shade here, Metro, and a slightly smaller brush. This is going to be our rougher 15. And baby, when I tell you this shade is soft, you want to be careful. So we're going to dust off some of that excess, because I ain't trying to do too much. And we're going to take this down into the crease even lower. Actually, I want to do a little bit more just to be on the safe side. And we're going to go low. And baby, that's what I was talking about. I needed a little more warmth to that shade. And I want to keep my brush as low into the crease as I can, and then slightly build it up. Bringing it up higher, I help diffuse those edges after we don't have so much color on the brush. And I feel as if, to me, you can see with just that one layer, it really warmed things up over here. I did not cover up the transition shade. This shade is sitting lower, but because it's darker and warmer, it's really adding something to the lid. And I want to go in with one more very light layer. We're going to dust off as much as we can and do that one more time just to see how this shadow builds. And usually ABH does warm shadows very well. I believe Modern Renaissance is their best-selling palette, and you all know how warm neutral that is. And as you can see, absolutely no issues with the building or blending on this. No fuss whatsoever, and she is popping. That's the ABH I know. And you all know, it just wouldn't be me unless I deepened up my crease. With my hooded lids, honey, I like to go as deep as I possibly can. And it appears the deepest matte we have is this shade here, Liberty. It does appear to have a green undertone, but with greens being my favorite, that ain't gonna stop nothing. I have my rougher 14 brush, and we're just gonna load her up, and baby, she just as soft as the rest of these shades. So what we're gonna do is tap her off, because we don't want to do too much, and I think I might have tapped off a little too much. Let's go back in and be gentle this time. Okay, and now we're gonna start as low as we can on the outer end, just to see what this pigmentation is like first. Ooh, you see that coming through, honey? And she honestly not as green as I thought she was gonna be, because in the pan you can truly see the green. But when you swatch her out, the green doesn't show out as much as I would have liked either. But I'm guessing for the girl who wants something much more neutral, a true green wouldn't work with this, but you can see she's definitely deepening up that crease. And I have such a tiny brush because I wanted to make sure I could go in and things will build and blend first before I go in with something larger. And honestly, considering the fact that even with that soft blend there, you can still see a defined crease there. So what I'm going to do is just raise my brush, soften up those edges, and go back in and see if she builds to give us a little more pigmentation. Because she's not giving us any patchiness, but I like a seamless blend between my transition, my crease, and my deepening shade that I use in the crease. Because that orange could have did it if I wanted something natural, but I'm not that type of girl like that. I like things deep, dark, and grungy. Gotta do one more layer. And she builds on this layer as well. Keeping her low to get that crease cut. And then raising your brush slightly to diffuse the edges. Baby, yes ma'am. Just because I know I'm going to go in with a bold shimmer, I want to make sure this crease line is as soft and diffused as I possibly can get it. Most times you could just go back in with your previous brush, but I don't want to lose this color here. And we'll call it that. I was going to go ahead and do the outer V as well, but you know what? We're going to leave it just like that. Okay, now I need to cover my lids. It's been a minute, so I got to pull her out. I know, NYX glitter adhesive. Baby, we almost through with her, but not quite yet. If I keep up these tutorials, I can have her gone by the end of the year. But we're going to grab that. And I had a different brush that I was using for a minute and can't remember where I put her. So we're going to have to stick to my Morphe M421. And we're just going to cover our lid. I'm not looking to have a cut crease or anything. I just want to be able to make sure my lids are coated. We're going to come down to the bottom and just spread this all the way across. And now, honey, it's time to pick some of these shimmer shades, and I'm trying to see which ones are bouncing off the camera the best. I know for sure I want to take the shade Peacock here. I'm debating on whether I want to put that over the entire lid or just half the lid. What it's looking like we're going to go ahead and do is put this shade here, Belle, on the inner half of our lids, and then take this shade here, Peacock, and put that on the outer half of the lid. When I tell you go in slowly, go in carefully, because baby, please go in slow and carefully, because I dipped a little too hard in this shade Belle, and I have a ton of product. So if I have any fallout, that is my fault, because baby, I wasn't paying attention. But we're going to pack this on the inner half. Just like ABH, don't come to play. Full pigmentation. Don't need to do a second layer at all. Y'all can see that's covered from here. I don't even know what I was expecting. Okay, now I'm just gonna flip my brush over and go into this shade Peacock, and I'm gonna go slow. Ooh, baby. I said I was gonna go slow, and it still picked up a ton of product. ABH shimmers, you just gotta take your time and go slow. So honey, we're gonna put this on the outer half and see what she get. Ooh, she's dark, sis. That black base is really showing out. So you wanna build her up slowly and diffuse her into that front shade Belle. It's not until after you get her on that you see that blue starting to shine through, but baby, that black base at first had me scared. I don't want a harsh line, so I'm trying to blend this up to the front a little bit. Okay, y'all see that there? Alright. Alright, you guys, it appears this is all we're going to do for the top of the lids. I want to cut away and finish off the face, but I wanted to remind myself that beforehand I had already did an ABH foundation tutorial. I'll make sure I leave that link right here above. That was in a full face first impressions, and because I used the ABH foundation in that one before, that one was way too dark to give it an accurate description on the color, but the formula I was pretty good on. So today I've exchanged it. I did have the shade 410W. Today I have 370W. So we're going to use this. So I'm going to cut away, finish off the face, and when I come back, I'm going to show you how we're going to finish off the lower lash line. Yes, ma'am. Just looking at the glow and the dimension that I got going on, honey, I can already tell this is going to be a good makeup day. But I want to tell you about some of the things that I used off camera, although all things will be in the description bar below. Sometimes I like to just update you all in person about things. First up, that ABH foundation. This is a much, much better shade match, honey. That first time that I tried this out, the color was so deep and so dark that the only thing I was worried about was trying to lighten it up to my complexion. But because I was using a bunch of first impressions products, I didn't have all my normal tools to make things work. Today, 370, she's the one for me, and hold on. I'm telling y'all, when these seasons start to change and this weather go back and forth, my allergies is crazy. Yesterday it was almost 70, then it got extremely cold and started raining, but we off subject. Back to ABH. This foundation is beautiful. I wouldn't say it's something that you have to rush out and immediately get, but what shocked me is that ABH did not come out with the formula that was like full-blown, full coverage off bat. It is, I would say, medium to buildable, but you can build it up to full coverage. I think she looks beautiful. So we're going to finish this bottle up here. No need to take that back or give that to anyone else. The main thing that I wanted to test out as far as complexion though, these ABH Laura Mercier Ultra Blur powders. You all know in that same video with the ABH powders, I tested these out. Well, I tested out one shade, which is the translucent, which is the lightest shade. And I've been telling myself I really need to see if I prefer that formula or the traditional one, because I went through my collection and found backups of the traditional powder in original and translucent honey. So I'm like, Torrence, you really need to see which one you like better, because if you have backups of the original and you don't need them, you can give them away. But if you prefer that original formula, you can go ahead and give these Ultra Blurs away. And I'm here to tell you all, y'all see the way that skin got a glow on it. Of course, yes, I am wearing highlighter. So you can see that highlighter right there. But baby, ain't nothing right here underneath the eye but that powder. Ain't nothing right here on the sides of the face. It's like, and I couldn't quite figure out exactly, like, Torrence, why is it that you love this powder so much? And it reminded me, I've always loved Laura Mercier powders. Although they are in this container now because I've grinded them up and put them in loose form, my Laura Mercier Candle Glow blurring powders was always my favorite finishing powder because it's mica based and it has a slight sheen to it. Although I love talc based powders because they are matte and they are flat, my skin has not been able to handle those. So instead of baking with the talc powder and then touching it up with the mica powder, I just been going straight in, baking with the mica powder, doing it in one layer instead of two, and I'm here to tell you I am loving it. I am loving it. She is fabulous. I already knew she was fabulous in that last video, but I only used translucent. Today I did translucent in the highlighted areas, translucent honey in the outer perimeters. And she gorgeous, honey. She is gorgeous. She is gorgeous. So, original Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, been debunked. The new Ultra Blur is my new favorite. So it's like, yes, ma'am. For all the other products, I wanted to stick to products I already knew. So those will be in the description bar below. The only thing that you may have never seen me wear on camera before is this lip combo. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my lips, so I decided, Torrence, pull out 2 lip liners and just do that, because back in the day, before I got into lipstick, that was my favorite form of lip color. Lip liners last all day. They don't bleed. I can always top them off with a gloss, which I might do right before we end this. But they are both from NYX. This is part of their professional makeup line. It's just their basic lip liners. I lined my lips with the shade, it looks like this is SPL 809 Mahogany. And then I filled my lips with SPL 828 Ever. Those two will be in the description bar below. And I think what I'm going to top them off with is just my plain clear matte lip gloss, because I'm loving the color. I just need a little more shine, and I don't want to use nothing that has a wand to dip into, because then that can risk transferring. But just this color alone to me is cute, but I just want a little more shine. But I just wanted you all to see that ombre that I go on. That ombre that I have going on. Normally I would buff out that lip liner line, but as you can see, my brush is still clean. I was being lazy, didn't feel like it, so I was like, we're gonna call it this. But I'm looking around like, is there anything else you need to remind them of? Anything you need to show off? No, but I do need to get back to this tutorial because I've been sitting back with y'all on Snapchat. Remember, if you send me a friend request on Snapchat, I will automatically accept it, just because I want to make sure everybody can get things going. But to make sure that I know that you came from YouTube, you have to DM me a message saying YouTube on Snapchat to be added to my private friends list. Because right now, I'm texting my girl Lupe. We sitting on, she's saying, that's pretty. Is that green with the pink? I'm like, oh, she trying to figure out which one it is. I ain't gonna tell her which one it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and let her know. What's up, Lupe? I'm finally responding to you. So we gotta get back to this tutorial because I just sent her a little sneak peek to see what the makeup looking like. So remember, I respond to all my comments when I see them, but if you want a faster interaction, Snapchat is where it's at. But we need to finish this face because I'm like, Torrence, that lower lash line ain't gonna do itself, and I need to grab a couple of these brushes. Baby, brushes are so beautiful when they clean, but ain't nothing quite as fun as getting them dirty. So let's get back into this tutorial. I know we don't have much going on, and I really just want to keep this nice and simple. So I think what we're going to do is just take a larger pencil brush, go into this shade here, Metro. Then we're going to deepen things up either with a smaller pencil brush or a push liner brush with this shade here, Liberty. And we're going to do both of that on the lower lash line all the way across. For Metro, we're going to go in with our Redford 26. This is my largest pencil brush. And baby, I almost forgot. This is the lower lash line, honey. We need to tap that off. We can always come back for more, but I don't want this color to start going everywhere. So we're going to start on the outer half. And you know what? Just one more again, just to be safe. Start on the outer half. And if needed, I might even have to pull this down a little bit just to make sure I can get close. So don't get mad at me if you get caught off view. Let's come in from the outer end, and we want to try to get that to connect. Baby, you all know I am not the biggest fan of oranges, but because this isn't a straight up warm orange, it has much more of a neutral tone to it. Baby, she is gorgeous to me. This might be the prettiest orange I've ever seen ABH do. And because I'm comfortable and already did that first layer, I don't mind starting off this second layer from the front, working my way to the back. And the way that this builds, even when you have the tiniest amount of color. And just to make sure, I was about to go to the other side, I want to connect this back in just a little stronger. I want to make sure that color is popping right there. Oh yeah. Just that one color is giving me a nice, beautiful, blown out smoke on this side, and I'm loving her. And just because I think it'll go a little faster, we're going to take the Redford 03 pencil brush. She's a bit smaller, into the shade Liberty. Normally, I would take a push liner brush to give me more precise and more control. We ain't worried about that today. Tap her off, and once again, start on that outer end. We want to work even slower with this color because she's even darker. So we're going to start on that outer end. Woo-wee! Baby, I might have should have went in with that push liner brush because she's a little bit smaller, because this color is not playing. I'm going to go in and tap her off. Baby, you truly only want to take this color with one pass. I ain't gonna have to build her up to see her coming through. Oh yeah, you can see that this side is a little darker and got more smoke than this side. So honey, if you're confident in your blend, go in with a pencil brush with Liberty. If not, go in with a tiny, tiny push liner brush. And last but not least, we need to highlight our inner corner and our brows. The thing is, just so we can get two different colors going, what we're gonna do is take this shade here, Paloma, and we're gonna see what she looks like underneath the brow. I'm not 100% sure she's gonna be flattering, but because she a matte, she might come off a little bit better. But then in the inner corner, we're gonna go into this shade here, Wings, and we're gonna use that to give us a beam of light. Okay, my MAC 242 brush. This is a natural hair brush, but because I know these colors are pigmented, honey, I know that's gonna be way too much. We can come back for more. We're gonna dust off as much as we can and just barely tap that up there to see what she's looking like. Baby, strong. Let me grab this. And honey, while I'm buffing this up and out, guess what I'm just now realizing? Although that color is beautiful, I can tell the difference between this highlight here and on this side. I didn't do my brows. I don't have no brow pencil, no brow gel, no brow, nothing going on. And because it's already this late in the tutorial, I'm like, do you really want to go through and put something on? So we just gonna skip them. We gonna go ahead, do Paloma on this other side, honey. And we just gonna call it that. Natural brows on fleek. Cause I don't know how I forgot to do my brows. It wasn't until I looked and realized, like, wait a minute, Torrence. Why is she looking a little thin on the bottom here and then looking a little thin? No, it's the opposite. Looking a little thin on the top over here, but looking thin on the bottom over here. Because I ain't feel the man, sis. We just going to have to go on without it because we ain't doing it. Next up, we're going to take that same brush and we're going to just dust her off on the back of the hand, flip her over into this shade Wings, and we know Wings is going to be popping. But you know what? That's exactly what we're looking for. Got some on the brush, although we can come in for more, I'm hoping we don't have to. So let's get in view so y'all can see this shine, because I know ABH will bring that. In the corner, get y'all right there, let's see. Hey, I'm gonna connect that to the top. I like that beam to come through and look like they all belong in one place. But you see how bold and bright that shade Wings is. Oh my, sis. You already know. A bold beam and highlight does it for me every time. I'm like, it ain't nothing else we could do. We loving this look. We gonna go ahead and call it that. But I did want to top my lips off. So let's go ahead, grab some of this matte clear lip gloss. We're gonna literally just squirt some on the finger and put that straight on. We're not even about to worry about it. I'm not worried about whether the whole lip is covered. We're gonna put this in the center and let it go out from there. Got me a nice little dollop there. Because I know my top lip is smaller, I'm gonna start there. And you see I got it in the center of the lips. It can always go out and bleed later. Well, not necessarily bleed, but blend into the outer corners. Press that there first, and then you can go in and press that and get that closer to the edge. Look. When I tell you, that color is so pretty. Because y'all know, reds are usually for the dramatic days. But a nice pinky mauve color, neutral, It has some attention to her, but she's not shocking and bold and screaming, hey, look at me. But we've been talking long enough. Now I got product on this finger and it's like, hold on. We still got to set everything. How we going to do that? We just going to wipe this on the back of this hand and keep it moving because we ain't about to slow down now. All right, you guys, this is all we're going to do today. But there's no point in going this far unless we're going to try to make it last all day. So grab your setting sprays because you know I'm about to grab mine. Fix Plus to give us a glowy do. All-nighter so things will last all day. Cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. I'm going to give this a few more moments to dry and I'll be back to give you all my final thoughts. And here's the final look. Want to go ahead, give you all a full face view of things before I give you all my final thoughts. And I'm here to tell you all, this palette is fabulous. ABH has done it again, honey. When I sit back and I look at this, it's like, oh my goodness, honey. Those eyes look fabulous. That skin looks fabulous. Those lips look fabulous. Where have you been, honey? Why did it take ABH so long to come out with this palette? First off, let's get into it. Let me pick her up. When I first look at this palette, the first thing that jumps out at me, personally, this shade here and this shade here. All I see is warm neutral mattes. It's not until you blend them out on the eye that you realize they aren't quite as warm neutral and orange as I thought they were. On my complexion, you can see they're almost coming off as a peach, which on my complexion, peach is neutral because I have a very warm yellow undertone. So adding that pink, I believe peach is a mixture of pink and yellow, brings things to a neutral look for me. It's not quite cool tone, but I don't feel like a vegetable. I don't feel like a fruit in here ready for breakfast with this color orange on my face. She looks gorgeous. You get into the lid shades. We got a bright neutral here. Then you got that deep dark blue brown that I have on the outer corner. But she doesn't look really deep and really dark like, what's that color I can think of? I think it's Max Blue Brown. It's not giving me that. So when I look at these shades here, it's like, honey, she's fabulous. She is beautiful. But before I purchased her, the one thing everybody kept telling me is, I'm quite sure we have colors like this in our collection. And if you go through, you can find them. But the one palette I heard that this may look identical to, or at least like a close sister when it comes to ABH, was this palette here. The Master Palettes by Mario. Now I know a lot of you may not have this palette because she's really old. I think I got this around October of 2016, which will make her at least 6 years old. And baby, although they are not identical, there are several shades in both palettes where it's like, you just a cooler version of this, you just a warmer version of that. So I'll be right back. I want you all to go ahead and take a quick look at this and then we'll come back to it. Although this palette is no longer available, I wanted to show you all what it looks like because out of all of the ABH palettes that I own, this to me has the closest color story. The outside was rather basic. It's a small palette, but it also contains 12 shadows. And the pans, I believe, are also smaller than normal, but that did not stop anything because, baby, this palette still sold out. Once inside, things look a little more like the traditional ABH that I love. You see we have the brush inside, but it still has the plastic on it because I've never used it. And on the inside, just like the Nouveau palette, we have 12 shades here. I believe the traditional ABH palettes that I love have 14, but this palette here only contains 3 mattes. They're on the bottom left. The rest are like satin to shimmers. None of these shades are like a really strong metallic, but I promise you, this is so beautiful, so soft, so neutral, so everyday friendly that it was no wonder that this sold out. I believe even though Mario put his name on it so that helped sales, I think this might have still been a palette that sold out without his help. But baby, wait till we get to those comparisons. And before I showed you comparison swatches, I wanted to show you these two palettes side by side. I know right here, it may not look like it. You'll look at it and say, okay, they both appear to be warm neutral palettes. I see a pop of green in both. I see a pop of blue in both. But how many shades are truly similar? And it's not until you swatch them side by side that you really see the difference. First, I wanted to give you all a very close-up view of these shades side by side, just so you can see how even though the colors aren't identical, if you're going for something like a matte orange or a shimmery blue, both palettes really offer a lot of the same shades. And when you pull them back and look at both palettes swatched side by side, although the Nouveau palette is in order, I did decide to swatch the Master palette by Mario out of order just so I can get the shades comparable close by. You start to notice this Nouveau palette seems like a grungier sister for the Mario palette, and considering if you missed out on the Master palettes by Mario, not Master, I'm thinking of a different palette. If you missed out on the Master palette by Mario, this Nouveau palette may be something you want to check out. Now that you've seen that, you can understand why I was so excited to test out this palette. I understand for many people, makeup is something you do when you're in a good mood. It's something you do to lift your spirits. And I feel the same way. The thing is, this particular palette holds a very special place in my heart because since I've gotten it, it is the only palette I've worn to every single funeral I've been to since I've purchased it. And I know for a lot of people, wearing makeup at a funeral is like, oh, see, no, I don't be having the time and energy and things like that. It's just, once I get there, the one thing I already know is coming is sadness, you know, depression, things like that. So I always try to do something to try to lift my spirits and make me feel much better. And the one thing I can always remember is anybody who's in my life and I've known for an extended period of time, more than likely I have good memories of them wearing makeup, and it's wearing that makeup that tries to keep me going and it's putting on makeup that puts me in a good mood at the beginning of the day, and usually I feel a lot better if I realize, Torrence, you managed to have the strength to do this. Imagine what else you can find the strength to do for the rest of the day. And so I know for a fact if for any reason I wanted to go somewhere and wear green eyeshadow, I'm going to feel good. If I try to pull off green eyeshadow on a funeral, I wouldn't be able to pull it off. The idea of knowing I have to focus on the blend, I have to focus on my color story, I have to focus on my placement, that's going to be doing too much. I want to be able to take a big fluffy brush, go in a one matte shade here, pick her up, sweep her through. Grab another brush, grab a shimmer, place her down, be out the door. Whether I'm going to do a tinted moisturizer or something like that, this palette has never failed me with keeping it simple and keeping it beautiful. And you know what? I think ABH did it again. Because although this color story here offers to me more variety, because we have this purple here, we have this green here, we have lighter shades that we can use on the lid if we want to do an all matte look. This to me is like the new updated version of my Master palette by Mario. You could not pay me to travel with this palette because the idea of losing her or not having her again, knowing I can't replace her, she stays home. I'm doing my makeup here, I'm putting her away, and then we can leave. With this palette here, I may not get the exact same looks as with this Master palette by Mario, but I know I can take this with me. I know I can wear this on a regular day now because I have such memories attached to my Master palettes by Mario. I'm 99% sure you're not just going to catch me wearing that to the club on a Friday night. I wouldn't mind wearing this one. So I understand I'm taking you all down memory lane, but my channel is open and honest, and I just like to be as real with you all as I possibly can, and I'm trying to just, you know, keep things focused right now. But to know that I can keep my ABH Master by Mario palette for exactly the reason I want to, but if for any reason I wanted to recreate a similar look, I can now do so without worrying about it. Means this Nouveau palette is truly a high recommend by me. The only thing I think they could have done to make this palette a little better for me is because of my complexion. Instead of giving me this shade here, Muse, I would have just taken a matte black. That's just me. Either a matte black or a dark brown, much deeper than anything else in this, like a blackened brown. Other than that, I think she absolutely gorgeous. So I'm gonna sit back, I'm looking around like, Torrence, is there anything else you need to mention? And I don't think so. I honestly think this video gonna be rather long because I've just been talking and blabbing and going, but I'm back on camera. I knew it was gonna take a minute to get comfortable again, and I'm sitting back seriously looking at these. Laura Mercier powders, like, I cannot believe I found new powders to top off the original. Like, Laura Mercier has been so iconic for so long. I never thought she would be able to do it again, but yes, ma'am. Everything about the makeup turned out fabulous today, so I got to cut this off. I got to get some videos. I got to get some pictures and send this to family members. So we're going to end this here. If you all truly did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, leave me a comment down below if you picked up this palette. I'm trying to see, what is the newest palette by ABH? Something Metals, I believe. I don't have that one, but let me know if you all have it. But we're going to end this video here. So with nothing else, I hope you all remember to practice, continue to stay blessed, and until next time, goodbye, YouTube.